First and foremost, I just want to start by sending our thoughts and prayers to John Trasmar's family. Passed away a little while ago, and we had Eric Van Ruyen in to speak to our team. He was gracious enough to come in and speak to our team. And you talk about one of them. We've had elite speakers here, and we paid for elite speakers to come in here. Maybe one of the most impactful speeches I've ever heard. That was raw, that was not planned, that was very heartfelt. From Eric to our football team was one of the best I've ever heard. And it was all about John. And I just want to make sure, once a Gopher, always a Gopher, and that M never comes off. And, so I know that, how close Eric and him were. And just to hear the news is kind of around the Thanksgiving holiday season just makes us all really grateful for what we do have and who we have in our life, because it's never expected to have them tomorrow. And it can be over like that in a lot of ways. So, sometimes, and he talked about the lessons he learned from John. And I think sometimes when we're talking about being grateful, we're only grateful for the good things. You need to be grateful for the things that are really hard too, because they teach us so many lessons. It's harder to be grateful for the things that are really difficult in our lives. But that's this season. It's the time of thanks. So I want to at least start out with that. To make sure his family knows that we're thinking of them and praying for them. Our whole Gopher family is. And really appreciate Eric coming to share some stuff with our football team. It's Thanksgiving this week. Our players have their annual turkey drive tomorrow. We're excited to do that. Coach Wilson giving out hundreds of turkeys. We're excited about doing that. And that's always really positive for our football players as they're, giving back to our community constantly through the Serving and Giving, Row the Boat program. And just want to thank them for that, but wish everybody else a happy Thanksgiving as well. So I'm sure we got a lot of questions to talk about and shirts to evaluate. So we'll kind of get into that. So
with this being Thanksgiving week, when and how did gratitude become a theme for you and something big in your life?
I think my entire life I was taught gratitude from a really early age. Being thankful for everything that you have. There's always going to be somebody who has more than you. There's always going to be something that has something bigger than you. There will always be something down to chase, and something has more or better or whatever it is. But being grateful for what you have and using those skills or where you're at, using that experience to make yourself better. Because I can probably point to a million things that I'm grateful for. I talked to Mike Nolan last night, who is my head coach for the 49ers. We talk probably once every few weeks, and I just, during this time of year, I usually call a lot of people to tell them how grateful I am. And I teach our players to do the same thing, writing letters or calling people that you're really thankful for. And, we talked last night just about if you didn't cut me in that one moment, at that exact day, in that exact time, there's no way I would be where I am today. Not even close. And we just kind of talked through that a little bit, talked a little bit about the season. I always talk to him after games and get his opinion, his take when I kind of vent back to him. So, but I think just as a youngster, I was always taught gratitude. The please and thank yous, the yes sirs, the yes ma'ams. I remember sitting in Ponderosa, and this is a very vivid memory when I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and I don't remember anything. Ask Heather. I really don't remember anything. And somebody came to our table, put down my drink, and I didn't say anything. And my dad, who always sat next to me, I had an elbow into the tricep immediately. And it was, oh, thank you. And she had already walked away, and then he made me go find her to tell her thank you for bringing my drink. He was always on top of that. So there's so many experiences you have in your life. I can go on and on about a lot of things that you're grateful for are the hardest things you've been through in your life, because they teach you the biggest lessons. Some of the most tragic, some of the hardest things you get through, you do as you get older, mature, and find the gratitude in that and find out what it teaches you. And I think, like I said, some of us only want to be grateful for the good things. You got to be grateful for the hard things that you're going through somehow, some way, because there's so many teaching lessons coming from it, just like our season. It's a tough season. It's hard. But there's so many opportunities to learn, and these guys are. And we're taking every moment we can to teach them for the rest of their lives or into, this week, into bowl season possibly, or even into, next year. So, they constantly want to learn, and there's a lot of learning around you.
As you Go through a hard year, what do you draw on from previous years? Maybe 2020, obviously that was an anomaly with COVID, but is there anything that you draw
Well, that was
on?
still a hard year.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's like, I know that's an anomaly and maybe difficult for different reasons. What do you draw on this year as you go forward?
Well, I think that, anytime you've been through hard things in your life, or you've been through hard times in a season, or you've had similar seasons, you reflect back on the reasons why. Not excuses, but that's part of experience. Right, so I've been a head coach that's gone 1-11. I've had a 1-11 football team. In high school, I was part of back-to-back 14-0 state championship football teams. I was part of really, really bad teams as a kid. I've been part of, as a player, we walked into a 26-game losing streak at Northern Illinois, and we rebuilt that. And there were some really hard years in between that. The last year we beat Alabama, we beat Maryland. I mean, these were crazy teams that Northern Illinois was beating in 1 year. But a few years ago, we were awful. You reflect on all that. Year one here was 5-7, really hard year. But if we didn't have that year, it wasn't going to set up the 11-2 season. 18 was a hard year, but that set up 19. Yeah, and then 20 was a hard year, which set up 21-22. And this is a hard year. The line of success, I said that from day one. You know how I define it. You know what it looks like. I mean, it is a jagged line. It looks like the stock market. And some programs, their jagged line is all the way at the top, and it's just a little squiggly look like. But they're not deep valleys, and they're always high peaks, but they're dips. Look around the country. I mean, there's teams that have gone to a national championship, and this year they might not go to a bowl, or they're close to going to a bowl. It's winning's hard. It's really hard. And but we've had some really close wins. We've had some really close losses. We've had some really just unbelievable wins and had some heartbreaking losses. But all of that is teaching these guys lessons, teaching our coaches lessons, finding ways to be able to do it better and grow and learn from the lessons of why. Every Sunday we come in, it's all about why. And again, that's what every coach in the country does. Today, the Vikings are doing the same thing. The Bears, the Packers. Why did we win? Why didn't we win? And they're all evaluating the same thing, right? Why? And then you just do everything you can to make that better throughout the week. And then you go play another game. But you draw on your past experiences. And the one thing that I think I'm very grateful for is had a lot of experiences that we've had some hard years, a lot of hard years, but we've had some historic years. So you reflect on those hard years and you know why you have those. And I think you're trained in how to fix those and how to make them better into the future. And that's what we're doing.
Eighth in season from Nebraska, now going into the final regular season game?
I think he's better in a lot of areas. I think he's got to continue to get better in a lot of areas. I think there's some areas that he's been maintained where it's got to make a huge jump. But I wouldn't sit there and say, okay, well, he's gotten worse in this. I think everything has gotten maintained or better. Now the level of that, can be argued, but that's our job, is to be able to make that better on a daily basis. And his commitment level, his maturity, his preparation, his leadership has all gotten better. And time is some guys get it quicker, some guys take a little bit longer. Whatever it is, time is your friend and your enemy at the same time, especially when you're talking in season. But I've seen tremendous growth from him. Seen tremendous growth from our football team. We played some really, really good football teams. When you play against some of the really, 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 really good football teams, top 1, top 2 teams in the country, it exposes what you're not good at very quickly, both from a skill set standpoint to a fundamental standpoint, to an athletic standpoint, and then to an execution standpoint. And I think what you're seeing from our standpoint is an execution standpoint, that we're not executing at a high level enough.
Things you hope your seniors take away from their experience in the program?
Well, I think that I hope they take away that everything affects everything and your whole life matters. Academically, athletically, socially, spiritually, serving and giving, making your life about something bigger than you. Family, forget about me, I love you, doesn't mean you're not important. It just means you're going to be part of something bigger than you. You have to be at your best to make everybody else be at their best, but doing things for other people. I mean, we always talk about this. We're not going to remember scores or wins or losses. We'll know that we won or lost, but the scores you probably are not going to remember. You're going to remember the relationships you made, and life's about people. And it's not about what you do. It's about how you do it. And I think that's more relevant right now in today's society, in athletics, and the world more than ever. So there's a lot of lessons they take from our program, but hope to keep rowing the boat. Hope they never give up on themselves or other people, and just keep that oar in that water and take all those life lessons that our program teaches. That's still a collegiate student-athlete cultural experience, and will be, and apply that to life.
How much different is Wisconsin to prepare for under this new coaching staff?
First of all, one of the greatest rivalries in all college football, most historic rivalry in the Big Ten. We're excited to play in it. Got a lot of respect for Luke Fickell. I got to work with Luke in year one when I was a GA, and he's had a ton of success, as a position coach, coordinator, head coach, and, he's a great leader. So, but when you look at, they're just a different team than they've been. I think every team differs when they change head coaches. They present a lot of challenges. The quarterback's really good. He presents an element that is unpredictable. And, when you have a quarterback that can do that, it can create on the run, create with his legs, create with his arm, a play's never dead, ever. So you can have this great play call and it doesn't work, and the next play worked twice as good as the play that was called because he's such a great athlete. Defensively, they're very different than they used to be. A lot of people are doing a little bit. They can be 3 down, they can be 4 down. They mix up coverages. They put a lot of pressure on you to execute at a really high level and be fundamentally sound, especially with the different things they can get in and out of. They've got a lot of players who played a ton of football. But the style is just you prepare for the style. It doesn't matter who the opponent is. You prepare for the style that is that week, and you go. Them being different than what they've been, they're still Wisconsin. They're a very good football team. A lot of players back from last year. So,
Are they scheme-wise, PJ, much different than when he was at Cincinnati?
I think that what they're doing is taking the personnel that they have, right, at Wisconsin. They've taken their system, plugged it in. From what I've seen, now I'm not saying that's what they've done. It's just from an outside view, from a helicopter view, is if you take maybe year one at Cincinnati, maybe it was different than when they went to the college football playoff because they had people that fit exactly what they wanted to do. When you take over a job, there's the guys that you have who are very good players at Wisconsin, and then you plug them in according to what you do and how you do it. Sometimes you do a little bit more of something else because of the personnel you have, and a little less of something else because you have the personnel you have, until you're able to get everybody in that fits the scheme that you're wanting to run. You can see a lot of similarities between Cincinnati and Wisconsin in terms of their scheme. Maybe not exactly the same, but similarities. But they definitely have different personnel. Guys that are able to do things at different places differently. And I think when you watch it on film, you can see that they're fitting that all together. It's not like they're just taking the square peg, jamming it in the round hole, and just saying, make it work. They're working to make it fit the personnel that they have, and that's what great coaches do.
How important is it to get this team this year to a bowl game, especially with some of the guys that came back for this year?
Well, it's a 1-0 championship season. I mean, that's, we're talking about the importance of, winning every single game, and I think at the beginning of the year, no matter what, I mean, you ask Tyler Newbin to come back. I mean, one thing I love about this football team is they expect to win every single football game. They're devastated when they don't win a football game. They know why they didn't win a football game. Some things in our control, out of our control. The guys that come back are very mature and understand that. You want to win every game that you play in. And our only focus is to be 1-0, period. I mean, that is our only focus. It's Axe Week, and I know Wisconsin feels the same way. If you win, you get to extend it. If you don't, then that's up for grabs, right? Then you probably don't. So I think that message is very clear. It's obvious. We've said that to them. They know that. We put ourselves in this position, and it fully falls on me. But we go out there to win every single game, not just the last one, but every single one of them. We said at the end of the year, we'll look up and add them up and then look up and see where we're at. It's hard to do that in the middle of the season. But, with everything around, you keep them aware of what's going on. But we work in one-game championship seasons. So.
With Cody Lindenberg out, Tyler Stolze was put in a challenging situation. What do you see out of growth out of him?
Opportunistic opportunity. It really is, because that's kind of the story of this year, in my opinion. So many we talk about an opportunistic schedule. Well, it's been an opportunistic year of guys being able to take an opportunity who maybe didn't think they were ever going to play. Now they're playing in, huge roles, which again works well for the future. What's the future? This year, the last week of the regular season, and into next year. Nobody wants to hear about next year. Nobody wants to talk about next year. Neither do I, right? But the investment you're making is only going to help that kid for his future, whether it's next week, whether it's next year, and you're excited about that. We have a lot of that at almost every position, which is really exciting. But again, you kind of go back, and Tyler Stolsky is one of those guys that have taken advantage of his opportunity. He's playing probably before he probably should, which again falls on me with the management. But I think he's gotten better and better every single week. He went from a guy on special teams that you're saying, all right, we're going to rely on him just on special teams, to a starter on defense. And I think he's handled his own very well, and he continues to get better. And not only that, I think he plays special teams at a high level too.
At roster depth and the transfer portal, and how many players left after last year versus players you brought in. There was more that left than came in, and that has affected the depth of the team currently. Yeah. Do you need to have an approach of kind of 1-for-1 where you replace experienced depth with experienced depth if that comes to this situation again this year?
I think you want that to happen. I think there are things that, when you're talking the portal, how do you get them out of the portal? What do they want out of the portal? Can you get them out of the portal that way? But yes, I think everybody's going through that for the first time of what – there's 2 portal windows. You lose people later in April. It's way harder to replace them in April. And we had some people leave in April. That affected the depth of our team. Not an excuse. That just affected it. When you're that late, okay, well, the first cycle is shown, right, to have the most guys in it, but also the guys that are going to be with you to develop that team, to develop that depth. You can bring a guy in, that's fine, but then you have, just like a true freshman, to learn that system and get on the field could be a little bit more difficult. I think you always want a 1-1 ratio. Whether that is a high school player or that is a transfer portal player, you always want to take the best player available and then what you can get. And I think that's what you have to continue to look at, and I think everybody's learning from what's worked for them and what hasn't worked for them. It's new to everybody. It's new to us. I've learned things this year that I'll apply to next year that maybe I didn't know before until you actually go through it. You might think you're good at a position, and then you get past April and you're not good at that position. Then how many guys can you actually bring in, right? Because then, if you're bringing in 3 guys through the portal, some of those portal guys are like, how many guys you bringing in at that position? You might only be able to get 1 out of the portal and have to get 2 in high school. So there's just a lot of things. The NIL piece of that, the portal piece of that, the depth piece of that. We knew that this year, right, we were going to have to stay healthy. Go back to what I said. We're going to have to stay healthy. But that's not an excuse. That's just part of the reason when you look at the roster management that you're going to be able to learn from and apply that to next year. So that's things that I have to look at and be better at.
Into Game 12, you have Tyler Newb and Brevin Spanford, Christian Bell, their last possible game here at Minnesota. Yep. It's at home and the chance to keep the Axe and Floyd Rose there here for an entire year. How much have they meant to the team? And
the good thing Floyd stays no matter what.
Yeah, I just mean both of them for the first time.
Yeah, I'm with you. You're 100%
and just
right.
what have they meant to the team, and what would that do for them just as a player to do?
Well,
that?
The guys that are leaving this year that are seniors, they've accomplished so much. Think about what Chris Ottman-Bell has seen in this program from the first day we got here to now, right? And the one thing I love about it is everybody wants perfection. Nobody in the country has perfection, like perfection. Even the teams that are undefeated haven't played perfect, right? They don't have a perfect team. Might have a record, but not a perfect team. You look at the things that they've seen and the things they've gone through and the highs and the lows that they've seen. Those are the life lessons that are going to make them incredible husbands and fathers and men. And at the end of the day, like that's part of my job. That's why I got in this. We get judged, and you get to do it if you keep winning. You get to keep having that impact if you keep winning. You get that platform if you keep winning. If you don't have that platform anymore. So we all have a window. We all have a life shelf. So those guys have learned the most because they've seen the most. They've seen really good. They've seen really hard. They've seen tough times. They've gone through the COVID stuff. They've gone through the social injustice piece of that. You can go on and on about all the things they've seen. They've got a lifetime of education built within 7 years. And now they get to go apply that to the rest of their lives. I wouldn't trade that for the world. And I hope they feel the same way. They've meant so much to this program, and this program is so grateful for them. the Tyler Newbins and the Bredman Span Fords and the Chris Hoffman Bells. And, I mean, you just think about all those guys. I mean, they love Minnesota. They do. I mean, Tyler Newbin did not have to come back. And he wasn't promised anything to come back in terms of, 12-0 promise of whatever. He wanted to come back to keep playing with his teammates, be a part of what we're doing, how we're doing it, be the leader of the defense. But when you're looking at the win-loss stuff, that if you look at just that, you'll sit there and go, okay, well, maybe that wasn't what he expected. But when you look at the education he's gotten this year and the type of man he's become through the ups and downs throughout this year, that's priceless. Now, again, that's not gonna win you any awards, but that's going to be able to teach you for the rest of your life, which I think is the most valuable piece of what we're doing. That sometimes we lose sight of that. And but from our standpoint and our job, that's what we do. So, thanks everybody. Row the boat, Sky Mile, go Gophers. Thanks for the shirt.